Imagine this. You wake up in a room with no doors. The walls are mirrors, floor to ceiling, reflecting your face from infinite angles. But when you lean closer, the reflection doesn't mimic your movements. It stares back with a faint smile you don't recognize. You blink. The reflection blinks a half-second later. You raise your hand. Its fingers twitch as if resisting an invisible current. A cold realization crawls up your spine. This is not a mirror. This is a window. And whatever is on the other side has been watching you for a very, very long time. This is not a nightmare. This is your subconscious. Every thought you've ever had, every decision you've ever made, every version of you that you believe yourself to be, none of it originated in the spotlight of your conscious mind. Beneath the surface, in the labyrinth of neural pathways older than language, something far more ancient and alien pulls the strings. You've spent your life believing you're the author of your story. But what if you're merely a character in a play written by a ghost? A ghost that is you, yet feels nothing like you. Consider the paradox. You are both the prisoner and the warden. You construct identities like fortresses. I am kind, I am ambitious, I am broken. Yet these walls were designed by hands you cannot see. When you say, I know myself, who is the I speaking? Who is the self being known? Descartes declared, I think, therefore I am. But what if the I that thinks is a marionette, its strings humming with the vibrations of ancestral fears, childhood wounds, and cultural myths you never consented to inherit? You felt it before. The inexplicable rage that hijacks your voice during an argument. The paralyzing dread that arrives uninvited on a Tuesday afternoon. The magnetic pull toward a person or habit that logic screams is wrong. These are not malfunctions. They are messages. Your subconscious, that silent shadow self, is not a passive repository of memories. It is an active architect, sculpting your reality from the raw material of unspoken traumas and unlived lives. It whispers to you in the language of symbols, dreams, and gut feelings, yet you've been conditioned to dismiss these as irrational noise. But here's the rupture. Your subconscious does not care about truth. It cares about survival. It will warp facts, rewrite memories, and fabricate narratives to protect the fragile fiction of you. It will make you hate what you desire and desire what destroys you, all to maintain equilibrium in a psyche fractured by contradictions. You cling to the illusion of free will, yet every choice you make is a negotiation between the stories you tell yourself and the primal scripts etched into your neural circuitry. Ask yourself, how many of your beliefs are truly yours? The career you chose, was it passion or a subliminal plea for a parent's approval? The partner you love, is it intimacy or a reenactment of childhood abandonment? Even your deepest regrets and proudest triumphs, are they yours or heirlooms passed down from generations of unhealed pain? The mirrors in that room are not glass. They are the collective weight of every unexamined thought, every suppressed emotion, every lie you've ever believed to avoid the terror of staring into the abyss of your own ambiguity, and the reflection that won't sync with your movements. That's the real you, the one buried beneath layers of conditioning, screaming to be heard through the static of your daily distractions. But here's the question that will haunt you long after this moment. If your subconscious shapes your reality, who or what shapes your subconscious? You stand at the edge of a frozen lake, its surface so clear you can see ancient creatures swimming in the depths, shadowy, half-formed things with too many teeth. The ice is thick, but fractures spiderweb beneath your feet. This is the human condition, a fragile veneer of rationality over a churning underworld of instincts, archetypes, and inherited madness. The subconscious is not yours. It is a haunted archive, curated by every generation that came before you. Why does this problem exist? Because evolution is not a ladder toward enlightenment. It is a relay race of trauma. Long before you learn to speak, your ancestors passed down neural blueprints for survival. Avoid predators, seek tribe approval, hoard resources. These codes still run in the background of your psyche, warping modern decisions with Stone Age imperatives. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, a reservoir of shared symbols and fears etched into our DNA. But what happens when the symbols rot? when the fears belong to ghosts, consider religion. For millennia, myths gave meaning to chaos. Gods explained thunderstorms. Morality tales tamed our darker impulses. But Nietzsche warned us, God is dead, we have killed him. The paradox? We dismantled the old myths, only to replace them with subtler, more insidious ones. Consumerism, nationalism, the cult of productivity. Your subconscious now kneels before algorithms that hijack primal urges. The same dopamine pathways that once compelled tribal bonding now addict you to likes and notifications. Huxley's Brave New World was not a dystopian fantasy. It was an operations manual. The real horror lies in the mechanics of denial. Freud called it repression. Sartre called it bad faith. To avoid confronting the void, the existential terror of freedom, we cling to prefabricated identities. I am a lawyer. I am a mother. I am a victim. These roles become psychic armor, shielding us from the truth that beneath the armor, there is only potential, raw and formless. Schopenhauer saw this clearly. Humans are not rational beings. We are will incarnate, desperate, clawing hunger disguised as intention. Your career ambitions, sublimated predation, your romantic jealousies, territorial instincts in Prada. But the deepest wound is epistemological. You cannot trust your own mind. Cognitive biases, confirmation bias, sunk cost fallacy, the Dunning-Kruger effect, are not flaws. They are features of a system designed to preserve the illusion of coherence. Your brain would rather invent a story than admit ignorance. It will delete contradictory memories, gaslight your senses, and alchemize trauma into nostalgia. Viktor Frankl, surviving Auschwitz, observed that even in hell, humans willed meaning into existence. But what meaning? And for whose benefit? The answer lies in the unspoken contract between biology and culture. Your subconscious is a double agent. It serves the Darwinian mandate to reproduce and dominate, while also parroting societal scripts that keep the machinery humming. You don't choose your desires, you inherit them. Ancient fears of exile mutate into modern FOMO. Tribal hierarchies rebrand as corporate ladder climbing. Even your self-loathing is a perverse tribute to social norms. You hate yourself not for failing your standards, but for breaching invisible edicts scribbled by dead strangers. Philosophy's great sin was its optimism. Descartes split mind from body, but the subconscious mocks such neat divisions. Jung's shadow, the repository of everything we deny, seeps into politics, relationships, and art. Why do civilized nations still wage war? Why do progressives harbor secret prejudices? Because the shadow always wins. It must win. To disown it is to hand it the wheel. And here, we strike the fault line. You are not sick. You are adaptive. The anxiety that crushes your chest, a Neolithic alarm system misfiring in a world without saber-toothed tigers. The numbness you feel scrolling through news feeds. Your psyche rationing emotional energy in an attention economy. The problem isn't that your subconscious lies, it's that it succeeded. It kept your ancestors alive. Now, with no predators left to flee, it turns its genius against you. Yet there is a perverse beauty in this prison. The same subconscious that chains you also holds the key. Jungian archetypes, Nietzsche's eternal recurrence, Frankl's will to meaning, all hint at a truth that terrifies the modern world. To escape the labyrinth, you must first admit you've always been lost. You must confront the ghosts in the machine, not with reason, but with ruthless curiosity. Why does the reflection in the mirror hesitate? Because it knows what you refuse to confess. You've been speaking someone else's lines. But whose? You're driving a car you didn't build, on a road you didn't choose, toward a destination you never agreed to visit. The radio hums with static, but beneath the noise, a faint voice whispers coordinates. You adjust the dial, click, and suddenly, clarity. Turn left here. Quit that job. Trust no one. You obey, believing it's intuition. But what if the voice isn't yours? What if it's the echo of 1,000 dead voices? Parents, priests, politicians, programming your GPS since the day you were born. This is how the subconscious colonizes reality. Every morning, you wake into a world sculpted by decisions you don't remember making. The foods you crave, the political slogans that stir your blood, the subtle dread of aging or irrelevance. These are not choices. They are the residue of a war fought in the dark, where your subconscious drafts treaties with cultural narratives and biological imperatives. The battleground, your hippocampus, the casualties, your autonomy, take memory. Neuroscientists confirm that each time you recall an event, you don't retrieve it, you rewrite it. The subconscious, like a censorious editor, splices scenes to fit your current narrative. That breakup wasn't mutual, you ended it. That childhood trauma wasn't random, you deserved it. Over decades, your autobiography becomes fan fiction, starring a protagonist your subconscious invented to placate your fears. The lie isn't malicious, it's metabolic. Your brain burns stories for fuel, but the damage metastasizes. Studies on negativity bias reveal that the subconscious prioritizes threats 5 times more intensely than rewards. A survival hack from when a rustling bush meant lions, not leaves. Today, this bias mutates into chronic anxiety. You fixate on one critical email, ignoring 100 praises. You rehearse disasters that never come, conditioning your body to live in perpetual fight or flight. The cortisol that once saved your ancestors from predators now corrodes your organs, turning you into a living monument to hypothetical danger. On a societal scale, the consequences are apocalyptic. Consumer capitalism didn't invent greed. It weaponized the subconscious fear of scarcity. Ads don't sell products, they sell identity fragments. Buy this watch, and become the hero. Wear this perfume, deserve love. Your purchases are exorcisms, rituals to banish the gnawing void where purpose should be. Meanwhile, social media algorithms, modern-day oracles, exploit your primal need for tribal belonging. They feed you rage, conspiracy, and validation, not because they're evil, but because your subconscious demands enemies to unite against. Tribalism isn't a bug of humanity, it's the operating system. And what of love? Romance, that most sacred of narratives, is a minefield of subconscious projections. Freud called it transference, the act of grafting old wounds onto new partners. You don't fall in love with a person. You fall in love with the absence of your father's approval, the ghost of your mother's neglect. Your fights about laundry or loyalty are proxy wars, reenactments of battles lost before you could speak. The divorce rate isn't a failure of commitment, it's a failure of exorcism. Even your body is a puppet. The placebo effect proves that belief can mend bones, yet the nocebo effect shows fear can induce illness. Chronic pain patients unknowingly tense muscles to guard against phantom threats. Anorexics see distortions in mirrors that don't exist. The subconscious doesn't distinguish between physical and emotional injury. It somatizes shame into back pain, grief into migraines, existential dread into a tumor. You are not sick, you are haunted. But the most insidious consequence? The erasure of time. Your subconscious doesn't age. It hoards childhood humiliations like fresh wounds. A 50-year-old CEO still cowers before his second-grade bully. A war veteran hears fireworks and drops to the ground, 19 forever in some synaptic trench. Meanwhile, the future is colonized by preemptive regret. You mourn losses that haven't happened, a lover's betrayal, a career's collapse, while the present dissolves into a slurry of dread and distraction. Here's the unbearable truth. You are living someone else's life. The hobbies you think you chose? Subliminal rebounds against parental expectations. The morals you defend, often just trauma responses polished into philosophy. Even your rebellions are scripted. The teenager's tattoos and the midlife crisis's sports car are cliches written by the same subconscious that enforces conformity. The societal cost is a world choking on collective delusion. Polarization, climate denial, authoritarianism, these are not failures of reason. They are subconscious immune responses. When facts threaten identity, the mind chooses identity. Always. A Trump supporter and a liberal activist may seem opposites, but neurologically, they're twins. Both cling to ideologies that protect their deepest, unexamined wounds. The subconscious would rather burn the world than face its own fragility. And yet, there's a flicker in the static. A 2011 Harvard study found that individuals who practiced mindfulness showed reduced amygdala size, the brain's fear center, and thickened prefrontal cortexes, the seat of conscious choice. In other words, attention melts the bars of the cage. But who dares to look? Who dares to question the voice in the car, the reflection in the mirror, the ache in the chest that whispers, "This is all there is"? The subconscious is a virus, but every virus has a vector, a weakness, a key. You are a prisoner of war, but the war ended decades ago. The guards left, the gates rusted open, yet you remain in your cell, reciting old propaganda, rationing moldy bread, saluting a flag that no longer exists. This is the paradox of your subconscious captivity. You are both the hostage and the jailer. To revolt, you need not destroy the prison, only awaken to the fact that its walls were painted on air. Rebellion begins with a heresy. Stop trying to control your mind. The subconscious cannot be dominated. It is a wild horse that bucks harder the tighter you grip the reins. Nietzsche's Übermensch did not conquer his demons. He danced with them. Jungian shadow work isn't about slaying inner monsters, but inviting them to tea. The first step to freedom is not resistance, but revelation. You must become an archaeologist of your own darkness, sifting through the rubble of inherited traumas and cultural hypnosis. History's great emancipators, Buddha, Socrates, Van Gogh, shared one trait. They courted madness, not psychosis, but the courage to question reality's operating system. When the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, he didn't meditate his way to serenity. He stared down Mara, the demon of illusion, and whispered, "I see you." Van Gogh didn't paint sunflowers. He exercised the static in his synapses, turning mental hurricanes into art that outlived him. These were not saints. They were hackers, exploiting glitches in the subconscious matrix. Your weapons? 1. The mirror of attention. Neuroscience confirms that focused awareness rewires the brain. A 2005 study on London taxi drivers revealed that memorizing the city's labyrinth thickened their hippocampi, proof that what you attend to physically alters your mind. Mindfulness isn't relaxation, it's reconnaissance. When anxiety arises, don't numb it, interrogate it. Whose voice is this? What ancient fear does it serve? Trace the roots, and the weed loses power. 2. The alchemy of suffering. Viktor Frankl, in Auschwitz's ashes, uncovered a law. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies your power. Modernity pathologizes pain, but the subconscious speaks loudest through wounds. A breakup isn't tragedy. It's a telegram from your shadow, revealing dependencies you mistook for love. Next time grief strikes, ask, what script is this pain tearing up? 3. The theater of possibility. Your subconscious believes every role you assign it. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, proves that changing mental narratives can alleviate depression. But go deeper. Write a new myth. If you've spent decades playing the orphan or the martyr, audition for the architect or the rebel. The 20th century mystic G.I. Gurdjieff called this self-remembering, the act of jolting yourself awake mid-script, like an actor realizing they're on stage. The nuclear option, existential disobedience. Every society, religion, and family system runs on subconscious compliance. To break free, you must become socially unproductive. The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, imagining worst-case scenarios to desensitize the fear of judgment. Diogenes lived in a barrel to mock Athenian vanity. What's your barrel? What sacred cow will you slaughter? Quit the job, burn the mask, date the wrong person. Each act of defiance starves the inner tyrant. But be warned, this war has no end. The subconscious is a shapeshifter. Conquer one complex, and another emerges wearing your father's face. That's why Zen masters sit for decades, not to attain enlightenment, but to keep choosing it. Kafka wrote, "You can hold yourself back from the sufferings of the world, but perhaps this very holding back is the one suffering you could avoid. The rebellion's secret? You are already free. The chains are made of celluloid, projections of old traumas mistaken for law." Schopenhauer was half right. We are indeed slaves to the will, but he missed the loophole. The will can be redirected when you stop trying to fix yourself and start curating yourself, selectively feeding thoughts, relationships, and environments that align with your chosen myth. The subconscious bends, not through force, but through seduction. A 2014 Johns Hopkins study on psychedelics revealed that psilocybin resets default mode networks, the brain's ego circuits. Participants reported ego dissolution followed by profound rebirth. I realized I wasn't broken. I was just believing broken ideas. You don't need drugs to replicate this. Any peak experience, art, nature, prayer, can jolt the subconscious into surrender. Here's the grenade to toss into your psychic trenches. What if you're not supposed to heal? What if your cracks are portals? Rumi's "The wound is the place where the light enters you" is more than poetry. It's neurology. PTSD research shows that trauma survivors who reframe their pain as purpose, helping others, creating art, rewire their brains faster than those seeking recovery. The rebellion isn't about winning, it's about playing a better game. When you stop fighting the subconscious and start collaborating with it, viewing dreams as code, emotions as encrypted messages, compulsions as misplaced prayers, the entire battlefield transforms. You become a double agent, smuggling meaning past the guards of logic and fear. But remember, the revolution will be televised. Not on screens, but in the quiet moments, choosing silence over scrolling, asking why when others demand how, loving someone without needing them. These are the Molotov cocktails that burn invisible cages. The reflection in the mirror is waiting. Will you meet its gaze? You stand at the edge of an ocean, not of water, but of light. A vast, shimmering expanse where every ripple is a decision, every wave a life. The horizon bends into a Mobius strip, twisting until past and future fuse. You step in. The light dissolves your body, your name, your story. For a moment, there is no you, only pure, unbound awareness. Then, a voice, or is it your own, whispers, "You were never the prisoner. You were the prison." This is the ultimate truth. Your subconscious is not a puppeteer. It is a mirror reflecting the God you forgot you were. The great delusion, the one that choked civilizations and birthed all philosophies, was the lie of separation. You believed your subconscious was a basement where monsters dwelled, your conscious mind a lone janitor flicking switches. But neuroscience shatters this hierarchy. The brain doesn't have levels. It's a symphony of 86 billion neurons, each firing in fractal harmony. The division between subconscious and conscious is an illusion, a trick of language. You are not two selves at war. You are a single universe experiencing itself through the prism of attention. Thinkers circled this truth, but couldn't name it. Jung called it the self, the totality of psyche, shadow, and light. Eastern mystics named it Brahman or Tao, the formless all. But strip away the poetry, and the revelation is terrifyingly simple. You are the author of the script you thought enslaved you. Every trauma, every desire, every synaptic habit was written to protect a sacred fiction. The fiction that you are small, separate, powerless. The subconscious didn't hijack your life. It conspired with you to stage this grand play of limitation, because to fully remember your divinity would collapse the game. Here's the paradox that unshackles eternity. You cannot escape the maze until you admit you built it. The anxiety, the addictions, the relationships that taste of ash. These were never chains. They were invitations, coded messages asking, "Are you ready to see through the dream?" When Nietzsche wrote, "Become who you are," he wasn't urging self-improvement. He was howling into the abyss. Stop pretending to be human. The evidence was always there. Near-death experiencers report their lives flashing, not as memories, but as choices. Quantum physics hints that observation shapes reality at the subatomic level. Indigenous shamans speak of allies and spirits, metaphors for subconscious forces awaiting collaboration. Even the Bible's "Kingdom of God within you" was a mistranslation. The original Greek reads, "Kingdom of God at hand," a realm of infinite potential hovering just beyond the veil of perception. But how to grasp it? Consider the Russian doll paradox. You spend years peeling layers, seeking a core, only to find the final doll is hollow. But what if the hollowness is the revelation? The emptiness isn't a lack. It's a womb, a space where the infinite can gestate. Your subconscious compulsions, Your darkest fears, your most cringe-worthy regrets, they're not flaws. They're brushstrokes in a self-portrait so vast, you mistook it for a cage. This is why enlightenment is not an achievement, but a homecoming. When the Buddha attained nirvana, he didn't transcend suffering. He realized samsara, the cycle of pain, and nirvana, liberation, were the same room. The subconscious patterns you fought, the need for approval, the fear of death, aren't enemies. They're teachers in costumes, drilling you until you laugh at the absurdity of the performance. A 2023 study on lucid dreaming offers a clue. Subjects who recognized they were dreaming could alter dream physics, flying, reshaping landscapes, even summoning deceased loved ones. The researchers' conclusion: awareness changes the rules of the game. Your waking life is no different. The moment you truly grasp that your beliefs shape reality, not metaphorically, but literally at the quantum level, the subconscious stops being a foe. It becomes clay. So here, in the final act, the plot twists. There is nothing to break free from. The rebellion was a drill, a rehearsal for the ultimate act of creation, not of a new life, but of a new lens. Schopenhauer's will, Frankel's meaning, Jung's shadow, all converge into a single imperative. Stop seeking and start sculpting. Your tools, the fire of responsibility. No more blaming parents, politics, or DNA. You chose this incarnation, the era, the body, the wounds, for reasons only your soul comprehends. A Course in Miracles states, you are not a victim of the world you see because you invented it. Own the script, and suddenly you can rewrite it. The alchemy of paradox. Embrace contradictions. You are both mortal and eternal, flawed and perfect, human and hologram. When the mind protests, whisper Rilke's plea. Do not now seek the answers. Live the questions now. The courage to be boring. The grandest truths are lived in mundane moments. Washing dishes, paying bills, breathing, presence. The act of fully occupying the now is the only exorcism you'll ever need. The final mirror shatters. What remains? Not a self, but a verb, a process, a cosmic current that once mistook itself for a drop. You realize the reflection that resisted you was never an enemy. It was your own infinite depth, too vast to comprehend, reflected back in fragments. So where does this leave you? In a world where every anxiety is a love letter from eternity, where every failure is a puzzle piece in a mosaic too magnificent to view from here, where the subconscious isn't a dungeon, but a dance partner, twirling you toward truths that vaporize language. You are not here to fix yourself. You are here to forget yourself, to dissolve into the paradox that you are nothing and everything, a speck of stardust that contains the Big Bang's echo. The curtain falls. The audience, your former self, applauds. But you're already backstage, shedding costumes, laughing at the script you once took so seriously. There's another role to play, another universe to dream. The light ocean beckons. Will you dive?